We often talk about finding ourselves like we're trying to solve some kind of super complicated puzzle. But what if it's not like that at all? What if it's simpler and way more powerful? What if it's really about learning how to sail your own unique ship through the massive, unpredictable sea of life?
This quote, this is everything for what we're talking about today. It's not about wishing you had a different boat. Nope, it's about becoming an absolute master captain of the one you've got. This isn't about some sealed fate. It's all about skillful navigation and taking back control. So, to make this all feel a bit more real, I want to tell you a story about a man named Ahai. His story is just a perfect picture of what it feels like to be totally lost at sea. Tossed around by waves you just don't understand, feeling like your entire life is one giant shipwreck. All right, first up, the story of a lost ship. Ahai's journey really captures that feeling of trying to get through life when you don't know the first thing about your own vessel. I mean, just listen to this. For Ahai, life was just one thing after another. His business completely failed, leaving him buried in debt. He finally lands a new job and boom, laid off. He thinks, okay, maybe I'll find someone, goes on a couple of dates, and then gets totally ghosted. And the cherry on top? He literally gets hit by a flower pot falling off of a balcony. Can you imagine? He just felt like the unluckiest man on the planet, always fighting a storm he couldn't even see. And then, one day, he stumbles upon this old book. And inside, he finds this game-changing insight. His whole life, he'd been blaming the stormy sea. Blaming bad luck, other people, the world. But this book showed him that the real problem wasn't the sea at all. It was the ship he was sailing. He had never, ever taken the time to actually understand its unique design, its strengths, or its weaknesses. So that brings up the big question, right? How do you understand your own vessel? Well, that's what Section 2 is all about. Your ship's inherent design, that unchangeable blueprint you were born with. In ancient Chinese philosophy, there's this concept called Sing, which basically means nature. And the best way to think about it is as the hull of your ship. It's the fundamental core part of you that doesn't change. Your temperament, your basic tendencies, all set the moment you came into this world. Look, you can't turn a little sailboat into a giant cargo tanker, right? But what you can do is become the best sailboat captain there ever was. So, how do you read this blueprint? Well, one of the most powerful tools for this is called Bazi. And let's be clear, this is not fortune telling. Think of it more like a diagnostic tool. It calculates the specific energies that were present at the exact time and place of your birth, and it creates what you could call a snapshot of your aura. That snapshot is the blueprint that reveals the unique design of your ship's hull, your Sing. Now, this might sound incredibly complex, but what if I told you that all of it, all the layers and details, grows from one single beautifully simple root? And that root is key, the vital life force energy that flows through literally everything in the universe. Let's think of it like a tree of life. Qi is the root, right? The source of everything. This energy is always moving, always flowing. That's the trunk of the tree. Now, at the exact moment you were born, that flowing energy crystallized into a totally unique pattern, just for you. Those are the branches. And that pattern, your personal Buzzy chart, well, that influences your daily life, just like the leaves on those branches.
Okay, so if your nature is the ship, what about the journey itself? That brings us to our third section, navigating life's changing tides.
And here we meet the other key piece of the puzzle. We have Sing, your nature. That's the unchanging hull of your ship. But then we have Ming, which we can call destiny. This is the ocean you're sailing on. It's so important to think of it not as some rigid, set-in-stone fate, but as the currents, the weather, and the winds you're going to encounter on your path. And this, right here, is the most crucial point. Your destiny is not a sealed verdict. Yes, the sea has its currents, for sure. But a skilled captain, they can use those currents. They can tack against the wind. They can choose which port to sail to. Your journey has a general direction, absolutely. But the choices you make along the way, they matter a lot. And hey, this isn't some new age idea. For a really powerful example of this, we can go way back to the ancient philosopher Mencius. He lived a really tough life, but he didn't just sit back and accept his fate. He talked about actively nourishing his vast flowing energy, his qi. He truly believed he could cultivate his own inner strength to change his course. And guess what? He did it. By focusing on self-cultivation and building up his inner qi, Mencius basically strengthened his ship from the inside out. He elevated his energy. The hull was the same, but now that ship could handle way bigger waves. He turned a life that was trending toward hardship into a legacy that influenced people for over 2,000 years. Amazing, right? So, we have the ancient blueprint. Now, how about we check out a modern captain's manual? That's our fourth section, a contemporary system that works beautifully with this ancient wisdom. This is where something called human design comes into the picture. It's a really fascinating modern system that actually blends ancient wisdom, like the I Ching and astrology, with concepts from science, like quantum physics. It generates a unique chart for you called a body graph, which is basically another kind of energy blueprint. Think of it like a super practical, user-friendly owner's manual for your specific model of ship. A core idea in human design is that we're not all running on the same kind of engine. There are different energy types. For instance, about 70% of us are generators or manifesting generators. These are the sustainable workhorse engines of the world. But you've also got projectors, manifestors, and really rare reflectors. Just seeing this immediately tells you that any one-size-fits-all approach to life, or to work, or to success, it just doesn't work. And here is where it gets incredibly practical. Each of these types has a unique strategy for moving through life with the least amount of resistance. Manifestors, they're here to start things, to be the spark, but they need to inform people before they act. Generators are the builders, the engines, designed to respond to things that light them up. Projectors are the guides, but they have to wait to be recognized and invited in. And reflectors, the mirrors, they need a full 28-day lunar cycle to get real clarity. Your strategy, when you combine it with what human design calls your inner authority, acts like your own personal GPS. And the number one rule of this GPS is, well, it's pretty revolutionary for most of us. It's this. Stop trying to figure everything out with your logical pro and con list mind. Instead, learn to listen to the wisdom of your body, your gut feeling, that intuitive hit, your emotional wave. That's how you make decisions that are truly correct for your unique design. Okay, let's bring this all home. We've got the ancient blueprint, we've got the modern manual, so now it's time for the whole point of this entire journey, for you to take the helm of your own ship. When you really boil it all down, the goal here comes down to 4 simple but really powerful things. First, to just truly know who you are at your core. Second, to use that knowledge to stop capsizing your own boat, to avoid all the unnecessary struggle and self-sabotage. Third, to have way better relationships because you understand your own design and can respect how different other people are. And finally, to be an active captain, constantly, skillfully adjusting your sails to work with the winds of life, not against them. I want to be crystal clear about this. The point of using tools like Bazi or human design isn't to just sit back and passively predict what's going to happen. No way. It's to give you the wisdom and the tools to become a skilled, active, and totally empowered captain of your own life. It's about uniting knowledge with action. So, now you have an introduction to both the ancient blueprints and the modern sea charts. The only question left is the most important one of all. Are you ready to stop being a passenger just getting tossed around by the waves and finally, truly take the helm yourself?